One thing we're not doing in 2026 is letting negativity drain our energy. We are at war for our purpose. How many times do people get irritated because you're trying to become something new or do something different and they want you to stay the same? What's up, y'all? It's your girl Brandy, aka Miss B, and I am back with season 2 of Give It Grace podcast. I'm so excited. Hope you are too, okay? And this is a space where we slow life down for a moment and talk about grace. The kind we give other people and also the kind that we have to learn to give to ourselves, okay? But let's be honest. The internet moves so fast. Opinions move so fast. Judgment moves so fast. And sometimes people decide who someone is based off of one moment, one photo, or one post. But what if we actually took the time to pause before we react? What if we asked ourselves, how do we hold truth and still hold humanity? That's what today's episode is about. Because sometimes the difference between judgment and grace is really simply remembering that there's a human being on the other side of the screen. Okay? There is a human being on the other side of the screen. I can't say it enough, okay? The first segment of our podcast is called Give Them Some Grace, and this is where we take a person of influence or celebrity who's really getting dragged out here in the media and social media streets, and we together see if we could give them some grace. Can we see the human before we see the headline? Now, the person I want to talk about today is Ari. Some might know her as Ari the Don. Some might know her as the Real Kyle sister. But what you do know is that Ari is a rich, you fill in the blank, okay? So recently, Ari was sporting a new look, new hair, new makeup. It was very bold and a lot different. And when I say the streets were not feeling it, people in the comments were beyond critiquing her. They were just being plain mean, okay? Like they were saying stuff like, who told her this looked good? This not it. She needs to fire her stylist. Something looks off. And went on and on and on and on. And I kept thinking to myself about how quick the internet is to punish people for trying something new, right? Especially people that are in the public eye. But here's the truth, right? Trying something new takes courage. A new look, a new hairstyle, a new idea, a new direction. And it seems like the moment you step outside of what people are used to seeing from you or expecting from you, that's when everybody got something to say. Okay? But Ari, being a rich fill in the blank, she's still a human being. She's a woman trying something creative for her best friend. I forgot to mention, it was for a photo shoot for Arrogant Tay, her best friend. Okay? And so the bigger question becomes, why are we so uncomfortable watching people experiment and grow? We should all know that growth often looks messy, right? It like, especially if you're growing, under a microscope. Transformation isn't always polished. And sometimes when someone tries something different, we react with judgment simply because we're used to an old version of them. That's powerful. How many times do people get irritated because you're trying to become something new or do something different and they want you to stay the same? But nobody stays the same forever. Not you, not me, and definitely not Ari. Okay? And like my pastor, Dr. Darius says, I got Bible. Okay? I got Bible. And the scriptures remind us to do not conform to the patterns of the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Okay? So transformation is not something to shame, for real. Transformation is a part of being a human being. So the real question becomes, why when we see someone trying something new, why do we become critics? Should we? Or should we be allowing them the space to evolve, even if they're in the public eye? Maybe sometimes they don't need a commentary. They don't need your opinions. They don't need your critiques. They just need some grace. So I'm asking, can we, as a people, as humans, give Ari some grace when she tries something new? Because y'all are just sometimes, not y'all, but y'all know who I'm talking about, are just mean. Okay? Let's give Ari some grace. The next segment of our pod is called Give It Some Grace. And this is when I talk about everyday annoyances and things that just get on our nerves. And we see if we could possibly give it some grace. Okay. So a lot of times I hear people personifying the internet, right? They will say things like, the internet will drag you. The internet, you can't fight with the internet. The internet is undefeated. Right? So they talk about the internet as though it's this like otherworldly being. But in all honesty, the truth is that the internet is not a person or a thing. I mean, it is a thing, I guess. But the internet is people. Okay? So every comment is written by someone probably sitting in the second level of a duplex house that they share with their mama, their daddy, their auntie, their grandparents, their nieces and nephews who have something to say about somebody else, right? So my question, and the question becomes, why are people so cruel online? Like I'm joking, but this is serious, right? Because it could be a number of reasons. It could be insecurity. It could be projection. So them projecting their own fears, insecurities onto someone else through a screen. I mean, they could just be bored, you know. And one thing we do know, some of them could just be hurt people. We know hurt people like to hurt people. That's what we know. Or they could just be wanting attention. Or they could just be forgetting that there's a human on the other side of that. And I've done this before, right? I'm not perfect. So this is a struggle. But here's the grace part, right? We don't have to respond to all of the negativity. Sometimes comments don't deserve a reaction. Sometimes silence is the most powerful response. And to me, ignoring negativity isn't a weakness. Sometimes it's wisdom. Right? We don't have to let negative voices drain our energy. And one thing we're not doing in 2026 is letting negativity drain our energy. Sometimes grace is saying, actually, you know what? That comment don't deserve my energy. As mean and as disrespectful as it was, I'm not even going to go there. Grace is not, accepting disrespect. But what it is saying that I'm not going to let this negativity pull me out of my character. Okay. So the next time somebody comments something negative, or you yourself think about commenting something negative, let's try to give it some grace. Can we do that? Please. The last segment of our pod is called Give Me Some Grace. And this is where I share a personal story or a personal struggle where I could use some more grace or have given some more grace, right? Sometimes the hardest person to give grace to is to ourselves. Okay. And let me tell y'all something. Nobody on this earth talks to you more than you talk to you, right? And speaking of for myself, there are some times where I am my worst critic. Not strangers, not my family, not people on social media. It's me. The voice in my head, right? That says things that's like, you're not ready, you're not good enough. Even recording this episode was a struggle. Okay. Things like, okay, people aren't going to take you serious. Like, you're not perfect. You have to be perfect to do this stuff. All of the negative, self-sabotaging thoughts that ring in my mind sometimes really take a toll on me. I'm not going to lie to y'all. Right? They really do. And I'm sure some of y'all can relate. Sometimes we stop ourselves before the world even gets the chance to. And that's crazy. Right? But one thing I've been learning recently that I think is really powerful is you have to learn how to talk back to that voice. Because the voice of insecurity and doubt and shame and fear and all of the things is not the only voice that exists, right? There's also the voice of truth. So recently, like, when my mind starts criticizing me, I have to remind myself what God says. And like my pastor, Dr. Darius Daniels at Change Church, shout out to Dr. Darius. I got Bible, okay? And the Bible says that me, Brandy, and you are fearfully and wonderfully made, right? So this means that my existence is not at all an accident. Even further, my favorite song and also in the Bible, if he dresses the lilies with beauty and splendor, how much more will he clothe you? Right? If y'all don't know that song, go look up Jireh, okay? I forgot who sings it, but just go look it up. So this means that if he dresses the lilies and takes care of flowers, how much more does he care for you? God took time to create flowers with detail. So if he did all of that, he definitely didn't make you by mistake. So sometimes when the negative voice starts talking, you got to talk back. You got to talk back, okay? Because whether we realize it or not, we are at war for our purpose. And sometimes grace means reminding yourself, I am not my insecurities. I am not what these voices in my head tell me I am. I am who God says I am. So today I want to ask y'all, can you give yourself some grace. I know I have to. I have to. There is no other way. So please, can you give yourself some grace too? I think so. I think we can do that. So I'll leave you with this, right? Everybody is fighting a battle that we can't see. The person in the comments, the celebrity in the headlines, and sometimes even the person in the mirror. Grace doesn't mean ignoring truth. Grace doesn't mean excusing disrespect. But it does mean remembering humanity. So this week, I want to challenge you to do 3 things. Yes, you. 3 things this week. Give somebody grace. Give the internet less of your energy. And most importantly, give yourself grace too. If you stay to the end of this episode, I'm sending you love, light, positivity, and grace. And I'll see y'all on the next one.